Dear students, in the previous lecture I was explaining you about screw gauge, which was incomplete. A screw gauge, it looks like this. This is the model. So here you have a U-shaped metal strip. Through this U-shaped metal strip there is a screw passing like this. So this screw has got number of threads, and this screw is passing through this head. This head is attached to this one. So here you can see a scale which is graduated in millimeters called pitch scale, and this is the head. This is called head scale. So this is called pitch scale, this is called head scale, and this horizontal line, it is called pitch line. I have shown this thing here in the diagram. So this is the screw, this is the pitch scale, this horizontal line that is called pitch line, and this is head scale, and this head scale has many graduations. So on the pitch scale and on the head scale, different screw gauges have different number of graduations. So for different screw gauges, the divisions on the pitch scale, divisions on the head scale differ. So before using any screw gauge, first you have to find the pitch of the screw, which I already told you that it is the distance between two successive threads. The distance between any two successive threads, it is called pitch of the screw, or simply pitch. How to find the pitch means, you have to give certain number of rotations to the screw head. You observe the distance moved on the pitch scale. So distance uncovered on the pitch scale divided by number of rotations given to the screw head will give you the pitch. This is the actual screw gauge which you use in our laboratory. This fixed head, this is called anvil, this is called spindle. When the anvil and spindle both are coinciding, this edge of the head, it will be exactly coinciding with this zero line. When these two are coinciding, this edge is coinciding to 0. Now I give 5 rotations here. I give 5 rotations to the screw head. Then this edge moved by 5 millimeter. That means this edge from here to here, it moved up to 5 millimeter. So distance uncovered on the pitch scale is 5 millimeter. Number of rotations given are 5. Therefore pitch is 1 millimeter. So for this instrument, pitch is 1 millimeter. Next, to calculate the least count of this screw gauge, you have to consider the pitch divided by number of divisions on the head scale. On this head scale, 100 divisions are there. 1 mm divided by 100, it will give you 0.01 mm. So this is the least count of this screw gauge. You can observe that in case of a vernier calipers, least count is 0.01 centimeter. For vernier calipers, least count is 0.01 centimeter. Whereas for screw gauge, it is 0.01 millimeter. That means a screw gauge, it can measure still smaller lengths than that of a vernier calipers. The precision of this screw gauge is 10 times more than that of vernier calipers. Precision means limit up to which it can measure. So it can measure up to 0.01 millimeter, whereas a vernier calipers can measure up to 0.01 centimeter. Therefore the precision of a vernier calipers, it is 10 times less than that of screw gauge, or precision of a screw gauge is 10 times more than that of vernier calipers. You should remember these equations correctly. Based on these equations only, in the NEET examination, questions will be asked. In the recent NEET examination, that is NEET 2020, there was a question given based on this formula, this one. Number of divisions on the head scale were given, least count was given, you are asked to find pitch. Recently ಆಗಿರೋ NEET 2020 ಎಕ್ಸಾಮಿನೇಷನಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಇದೆ, ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಹೆಡ್ ಸ್ಕೇಲ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಡಿವಿಷನ್ಸ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಾರ, ಲೀಸ್ಟ್ ಕೌಂಟ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಾರ, ಅದರದ್ದು ಪಿಚ್ ಎಷ್ಟು ಅಂತ ಕೇಳಾರ. ಈ ಫಾರ್ಮುಲಾ ನೆನಪಿದ್ರೆ ಆಟೋಮೆಟಿಕ್ಲಿ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಗೆಟ್ ದಿ ಆನ್ಸರ್. ಸೊ ಫಾರ್ ಡಿಫರೆಂಟ್ screw gauges, pitch and least count can be different. For all the screw gauges which you use in our laboratory, the pitch is 1 millimeter and least count is 0.01 millimeter. And also you have to find error in this screw gauge before using it for any measurement. Zero error. See, for an ideal screw gauge, when the anvil and spindle both are coinciding, the 0th division should coincide with this pitch line. That means it should be like this. So this is pitch line. This is head scale 0. So this is the pitch line. When the anvil and spindle both are coinciding, when these two, so you coincide these two, you turn the knob such that till you hear 2 or 3 click sounds. Don't hold it like this and turn it tightly. Always you have to hold the end and you turn till you hear 2 or 3 click sounds. Now this anvil and spindle both are coinciding. So for an ideal screw gauge, this head scale 0 should coincide with the pitch line. Then that instrument, when this head scale 0 is coinciding with this pitch line, then this instrument is said to have no error. There is said to be no error. But these type of instruments are rare in the laboratory because due to over tightening or due to use of the instrument over a long period, sometimes these threads may get damaged. Due to that, all instruments, all screw gauges which you use in the laboratory, they develop errors. These errors are 2 types, positive error and negative error. Here this is one case where there is no error. In the second case, in the second case, this pitch line coinciding to a division below 0. That means a division on the head scale less than 0 is coinciding with the pitch line. So actually this 0th division has to coincide with the pitch line, but instead of that, below 0, that means 97, see this is 90th division. 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97th division is coinciding. That means it is coinciding less by 3 divisions. So instruments having this type of error, they are said to have negative error. 0 error, that is negative. Because actually pitch line has to coincide with 0th division, but it is coinciding less by 3 divisions. So this instrument is said to have negative error. How much negative error means? 3 divisions, minus 3 division negative error. It has to coincide to 0th division. 0th division is nothing but 100th division. 0th division is nothing but 100th division. So instead of coinciding to this 0 or 100th division, it is coinciding to 97. That means less by 3 divisions. So this instrument is said to have a negative error of minus 3 division. When you take measurement with such an instrument, that measurement will be less by 3 divisions. So in order to get the correct reading, you have to add 3 divisions. That is called zero correction. It is a plus 3 division. So this type of error, it is called negative error. So this is a minus 3 division, so corresponding correction is plus 3 divisions. In the next case, some instruments can also have positive error. See, this is the screw gauge and this is the screw head. This is the pitch line, and 0th division is somewhere here. So in this case, this pitch line is coinciding to a division on the head scale above 0. The pitch line is coinciding to a division on the head scale above 0. Or otherwise, head scale 0 is below the pitch line. This head scale 0, it is below the pitch line. In that case, this pitch line is coinciding to some excess division. See, this is the increasing order of divisions, 0 to 10. So it is coinciding to 3rd division. It is coinciding, actually it has to coincide to 0, but it is coinciding to 3rd division. That means it is coinciding excess by 3 division. That is why this is 0 error. It is called plus 3 division in this case. So 0 error is plus 3 division means if you take a measurement with such an instrument, that measurement will be excess by 3 division. So in order to get the correct measurement, these 3 divisions are to be subtracted. Hence, 0 correction, it must be minus 3 division. So like this, before using a screw gauge, first you have to find pitch least count and then 0 error. This is the case when we say there is no 0 error. 0 error is 0. When the head scale 0 is above this pitch line, that means when this pitch line is coinciding to a division less than 0, the error is negative. How much negative error is there? So it is coinciding to 97th division. So 100 minus 97, it is minus 103. So 0 error is minus 3. So correspondingly, correction is plus 3. In a similar way, when the pitch line is coinciding to a division more than 0, the correct error is positive. So it is coinciding to third division, so error is plus 3. Corresponding correction is minus 3 division. So in this way, you have to identify the error. For a given screw gauge, this error is constant, it won't change. For a given screw gauge, error is constant. So before using this screw gauge for any measurement, you have to identify this error. Now, in the laboratory, we are going to find the thickness of a glass plate, thickness of a wire, diameter of a small sphere by using a screw gauge. So the wire whose thickness is to be found, it is fixed between the anvil and spindle. Say I want to find the diameter of this object. So I fix it between the anvil and spindle like this. I want to find the diameter of this piece of chalk. So you have to fix it like this. You put it in between the anvil and spindle and you turn it till you hear 2 or 3 click sounds like this. Now you note on the pitch scale reading. That means on this pitch scale, you see how many divisions are visible. So in this case, I can see 9 divisions. That is called pitch scale reading. Pitch scale reading means after keeping the object in between anvil and spindle, number of divisions, number of vertical lines visible on the pitch scale, that is called pitch scale reading. So after 0, I can see 9 divisions here. So the pitch scale reading is 9 millimeter. So here 1, 2, 3 divisions are there. But after keeping this object, I can see 9 divisions. So pitch scale reading is 9 mm. In the same way, I have to find head scale reading. Head scale reading means the division on the head scale which is coinciding with this pitch line. Here 62 division is coinciding. So the division on the head scale which is coinciding with this pitch line, that is called head scale reading, which is 62. By using these two, I have to calculate this total reading with this formula. Pitch scale reading plus head scale reading plus or minus 0 correction. Plus or minus. If the error is negative, correction is positive, you will get plus sign. If the error is positive, correction is negative, you will get minus sign. Either plus or minus. So for a given instrument, it is constant. So you have to take either plus or minus. So here this is the pitch scale reading 9 millimeter. This head scale reading is 62. Say if this instrument has a negative error, then the correction is say plus 3 division. Least count is 0.01 millimeter. So this is 9 millimeter. 62 plus 3, 65. 65 into 0.01, 0.65 millimeter. So the diameter of this piece of chalk is 9.65 millimeter. In this way, you can find the diameter of given object. Next, I fix this object at different positions. So first I fix it here. Here and then here, and then here. At 3 different positions I find the diameter. I get 3 readings. The mean of the 3 readings will give you the mean diameter of this object using screw gauge. So in this way, you have to find the length by using a screw gauge. I told you how to use a vernier calipers and also how to use a screw gauge. You are doing these 2 experiments in the laboratory. So before going to lab, when practical starts, before going to lab, you go through this video once again. Thereby you can confidently do the experiment in the laboratory. Apart from that, you should remember this formula for the NEET examination point of view. So this is about the direct measurement of length. By using ordinary scale, vernier calipers, and then screw gauge. Next, indirect measurement. Indirect methods to measure length. See, in indirect method, we use some mathematical relations. By means of the mathematical relations, we can determine the length. For example, parallax method. These indirect methods are employed when you don't have any measuring device. So one such method is a parallax method. This parallax means it is a relative shift in position of object with respect to background. Relative shift or relative change in position of object with respect to background, that is called parallax. For example, this is an object. When I look from this side, the background is that window. Whereas when I look from this side, the background is the door. With reference to the background, the position of this object is different. Understand? Depending upon the direction along which you view, the position of the object changes with respect to the background. If I look from this direction, that window is the background. If I look from this direction, the door becomes the background. So with reference to the background, there will be a change in position of this object. That is called parallax. So by using this parallax method, one can estimate the distances. So here, this is the point of observation. So this is the position of the object with this background, and this is the position of object with this background. That means when you look at this object in this direction, this becomes the background. When I look at this object from this direction, this becomes the background. So this is a distance d, and let this be the distance capital D. So at this object, the background positions here, A and B. At this object, these background positions, they subtend an angle theta. By geometry, the relation between this D, capital D, and theta is, this theta is equal to arc length divided by radius. By geometry, this theta, angle theta is equal to arc length divided by radius. So theta becomes D divided by D. So if you know this capital D and theta, you can calculate this distance D. Or if you know this D and theta, you can calculate this distance D. So out of these three parameters, if you know any two, the third thing can be calculated. So this type of parallax method is employed particularly to measure these interstellar distances, astronomical distances. Understand? So these astronomical distances are estimated by means of this parallax method. And further, to measure these astronomical lengths, we use different units. So the conventional unit of length is meter. In our day-to-day life, the lengths are measured in terms of meter only. But very long distances, they are expressed in different units. One is astronomical unit. So astronomical unit means it is the average distance between the sun and the earth. You know that earth revolves around the sun in elliptical path. Earth revolves around the sun in elliptical path. So during the motion of the earth around the sun, at this point the distance between the earth and sun is minimum. When the earth is here, this distance is maximum. So if I find the average of these two, this distance plus this distance divided by 2, that becomes the mean distance between the sun and the earth. So this mean distance or average distance between the sun and the earth, it is called 1 astronomical unit. So this 1 astronomical unit, it is nearly 1.496 into 10 to the power of 11 meter. I will check this value. So 1.496 into 10 to the power of 11 meter. So this is one large unit of length. Another large unit of length is 1 light year. Astronomical distances are also expressed in terms of light year. Light year means it is the distance travelled by light during a time 1 year. Distance travelled by light in 1 year, it is called 1 light year. You know the speed of light. Distance travelled by light divided by time taken, which is 3 in 10 to the power of 8 meter per second. That means in 1 second light travel this much of distance, 3 in 10 to the power of 8 meter. In 1 second light travels 3 into 10 to the power of 8 meter distance. So 1 light year means the distance travelled by light in 1 year. So 3 into 10 to the power of 8 meter, this is the distance travelled in 1 second. Into 60, this is the distance travelled in 1 minute. Into 60, this is the distance travelled by light in 1 hour. Into 24, it is the distance travelled by light in 1 day. Into 365.24 nearly. That is 1 year. So this is the distance travelled by light in 1 second, 1 minute, 1 hour, 1 day, 1 year. So if you calculate this value, it comes to be nearly 9.46 in 10 to the power of 15 meter. So this is another large unit in which astronomical distances are measured. The next one is parsec. Parsec, sometimes this is also called as a parallactic second. See, 1 parsec is the distance at which 2 points separated by 1 astronomical unit subtend an angle of 1 second. I repeat, 1 parsec is the distance at which 2 points separated by 1 astronomical unit subtend an angle of 1 second. That means when theta is equal to here, when theta is equal to 1 second and this d is equal to 1 astronomical unit, that means this much, this capital D, it becomes equal to 1 parsec. So this is the definition of parsec. So the distance at which 2 points separated by 1 astronomical unit subtend an angle of 1 second. So if you express this parsec in meter, it is nearly 3.1 into 10 to the power of 16 meter. So 1 parsec is equal to this much, 3.1 into the power of 16 meter. You should also know the conversion between these units. The conversion is 1 light year is equal to 6.3 into 10 to the power of 4 astronomical units, and 1 parsec, this is equal to 3.28 light year or 2.07 in 10 to the power of 5 astronomical unit, and this is equal to this many number of meter. So this is the conversion between parsec, astronomical unit and light year. You have to remember these statements. You can get a question like this: which is the largest unit to measure astronomical distance? Board examination nalli 1 mark ge itara kelbodu. Name the largest unit in which astronomical distance are measured. That is parsec. ಅದೇ ರೀತಿ NEET examination ನಲ್ಲಿ which is the largest unit to measure the length? Number 1 kilometer, number 2 astronomical unit, light year. ಈ ಥರ 4 options ಕೊಟ್ಟು you will be asked to find which is the correct one. So from that point of view, you remember these things. So this is all about the measurement of length. Second thing, measurement of mass. Mass, by definition, it is the amount of matter present in a body. In our day-to-day life, mass is measured in terms of kg. SI unit is kg, and by using conventional balance or digital balance or whatever it may be, we measure mass in kg, gram and milligram. So these are the conventional units in which mass is measured. Very small quantity of mass, like a mass of an atom or nuclear mass. So mass of subatomic particles, it will be expressed in terms of atomic mass unit. That is called AMU. Atomic mass unit. Sometimes simply you write U. Instead of writing AMU, sometimes it will also be written as U. 1 U, that means 1 atomic mass unit. So this 1 atomic mass unit is nothing but 1/12 mass of carbon 12 atom. If you take 1 carbon 12 atom, out of that 1/12 mass, it becomes 1 atomic mass unit. See how to find this one atomic mass unit by means of this statement. So carbon 12 means this 12 grams, 12 into 10 to the power of minus 3 kg of C12 contains Avogadro number of atoms. In chemistry, you might have learned about this thing. This gram equivalent, a mass equivalent to gram equivalent, it contains Avogadro number of atoms. Therefore, mass of one carbon 12 atom, it is 12 into 10 to the power of minus 3 divided by 6.023 into 10 to the power of 23. Therefore, 1 AMU, 1/12 of this mass again. So 1 by 12 into 10 to the power of minus 3 divided by 6.23 into 10 to the power of 23. If you find this value, it comes to be nearly 1.66 into 10 to the power of minus 27. So therefore, one atomic mass unit is equal to 1.66 into 10 to the power of minus 27 kg. You remember this thing, you come across this statement frequently. So atomic masses are expressed in terms of this atomic mass unit only. And these atomic masses, they are measured by using mass spectroscopes. Mass spectroscopes, they measure mass of atoms in terms of AMU. So you just remember that mass spectroscope is an instrument which is used to find atomic masses. So this is about the measurement of small masses. Next, large masses, large amount of mass. So the conventional large amount of mass will be generally expressed in terms of tons. Still, celestial masses, they are expressed in terms of mass of sun. Understand? Mass of sun is nearly 10 to the power of 30 kg. Mass of other celestial bodies will be always compared with mass of sun, and they will be expressed as 1.4 times, 1.6 times, 3 times, 4 times mass of sun, like that. Extremely large masses are expressed so. The next thing is measurement of time. So usually time is measured in terms of second. Conventionally, time is measured in terms of second. I already told you the definition of 1 second. It is the time for 9.192 in 10 to the power of 12 oscillations of a cesium-133 atom in the ground state between two hyperfine lines. So cesium-133 atom in the ground state, when it emits radiation between two hyperfine lines, the time taken for this many number of oscillations, it becomes equal to 1 second. So to measure the time, we take this as the standard. 1 second is the unit, and this is the definition. Further, the time at different geographic locations, it will be different. In India, the Indian Standard Time, it is maintained by National Physical Laboratory, Delhi, NPL, Delhi. In the National Physical Laboratory, New Delhi, there is one cesium 133, cesium atomic clock. So that cesium atomic clock maintains Indian Standard Time. And further, in the study of physics, we come across time intervals as small as 10 to the power of minus 24 seconds to as large as 10 to the power of 17 seconds. The lifetime of some elementary particles, it is very small as this much. The lifetime of some elementary particles is quite small. So it is of this order. And this 10 to the power of 17 seconds, it corresponds to the life of this universe. The universe is imagined to be formed or estimated to be formed before 10 to the power of 17 seconds time early. Further, any event which takes place at a definite interval, it can be used as a source of measuring time. Any event which takes place in a definite time can be used as a device for time measurement. For example, electrical oscillators, electronic oscillators, they make oscillation at a definite interval of time. So they can be used as a time measuring device. For example, you take a quartz oscillator. We wear quartz watches. So inside there is a quartz crystal. So this quartz crystal, when you apply a suitable potential difference, it makes oscillations, vibrations. So these vibrations are used to measure time in your watch. So like that, any event which takes place at regular interval, it can be used to measure time. So this is about the measurement of length, measurement of mass and measurement of time. Next, in the next class, I am going to tell you about the errors, accuracy and precision in measurements, the different types of errors and how to estimate these errors. So I will continue in the next class.